The sound of high heels echoed through the late-night corridor of the financial district. Clara Moretti, young CEO of Moretti Holdings, returned to the office to retrieve a file of classified documents. The glass door at the end of the hallway still had its lights on, though she was certain she'd turned them off before leaving. As her hand touched the door handle, a figure appeared behind her, pulling her back and covering her mouth. "Don't scream," a man's voice, deep, hoarse, and trembling with urgency. She struggled, but he whispered, "Don't go inside. There are people in there, waiting to hurt you." Her eyes widened in shock. The man was Ethan Ward, just a night shift janitor, someone she'd never even noticed. Before she could speak, the sound of breaking glass erupted from inside the room. Clara Moretti, 31 years old, young CEO, cold and powerful. She took over the company after the sudden death of her father, the founder of Moretti Holdings, Zurich's largest financial corporation. The media once praised her as the Iron Lady of Finance, but colleagues called her the woman who knows no fear. In truth, she feared only one thing: losing control. That's why she trusted no one but herself. Every night she was the last to leave the office, and those cold, bright hallways knew only the sound of vacuum cleaners and the smell of cleaning chemicals as company. The night shift operator was Ethan Ward, 36 years old, single dad, formerly an internal security officer who quit after his wife died from surgical complications. He worked the cleaning job so he could have mornings free to take his 8-year-old daughter Lily to school. Ethan was kind, quiet, always greeting Clara when she passed by, but never receiving so much as a nod in return. That night, he spotted intruders entering the 30th floor office through the security cameras. He checked the system and discovered that all footage from the previous 10 minutes had been deleted. Ethan grabbed the maintenance keys and ran to the hallway, just in time to see Clara step out of the elevator. He tried calling out, "Ms. Moretti, don't go in," but she didn't hear him. As she was about to touch the door handle, he lunged forward, covered her mouth, and pulled her out of sight. In that moment, she was ready to fight back, but his eyes were serious and genuinely afraid. The sound of breaking glass rang out, followed by the sound of running footsteps. Both of them hid behind a concrete pillar, hearts pounding. Clara whispered, "Who are you?" Ethan replied softly, "The janitor, and the person who just saved your life." She looked at him properly for the first time. Not the invisible man who cleaned her floors, but a person, someone real. "Why would anyone want to hurt me?" she asked, her voice shaking slightly. "I don't know, but I saw them on the cameras before the feed was cut. 3 men, dressed professionally, carrying equipment. They knew exactly where to go." Clara's mind raced. Corporate espionage? A hostile takeover attempt? A personal vendetta? "We need to call security," she said, reaching for her phone. "The system's down. Someone disabled it from the inside." Ethan glanced around the corner carefully. "They're still in there." "How do you know?" "Because I've been doing this job for 2 years. I know every sound this building makes, and those aren't the sounds of people leaving." Clara studied him. His uniform was worn but clean. His hands were rough from work but steady. His eyes, when they met hers, held a clarity she rarely saw in the boardroom. "You used to do something else," she said. It wasn't a question. "Security analysis. Before." "Before what?" "Before your father fired me." The words hung in the air between them. Clara's breath caught. "You worked for Moretti Holdings?" "5 years ago. I reported suspicious activity in the server room. Someone was selling confidential client data. When I pushed for an investigation, I became the suspect instead." Clara felt something shift in her chest. She'd seen his name before, in her father's old files marked as terminated for cause. She'd never questioned it, never thought to look deeper. "I'm sorry," she said, and meant it. Ethan looked surprised. "You don't need to apologize for your father's choices." "Yes, I do, because I never questioned them. I just assumed he was right." Before he could respond, they heard voices approaching. Ethan pressed a finger to his lips and guided her toward the emergency stairwell. As they moved silently through the shadows, Clara realized something profound. This janitor, this man she'd walked past 100 times without seeing, had just saved her life. And she didn't even know his daughter's name. The last real human mark of Act 1. Ethan pulled from his pocket a small metal fragment, the Moretti Holdings logo engraved on a piece of broken security camera, glinting in the dim light. Evidence someone had been planning this for a while. Clara and Ethan hid in the technical room waiting for police to arrive. No phone signal, internal security system disabled. Ethan booted up the backup camera system and reopened the hidden footage. In the video, two men in black suits were placing document bags in her office, then deliberately breaking glass to create a false crime scene. Clara was stunned. "Why my office?" Ethan said quietly. "Someone wants you removed from the company." She sank into the metal chair, hands trembling, realizing for the first time she wasn't invincible. He looked at her, then draped his jacket over her shoulders. "I don't need pity," she said. "This isn't pity," he replied. "Just reflex. I'm a father." She looked at him for a long moment, her voice softening. "You have a child?" "An 8-year-old girl. Her mother died when she was too young to remember her face." He explained that he used to be a security engineer at Moretti Holdings, but was forced out after discovering internal data being sold to shady partners, including people at the management level. Clara fell silent, recognizing the name Ward from the security files she'd read when first taking office. He'd been accused of data leakage, fired by her father's signed order. She felt sick. How many other lives had her father destroyed to protect the company's image? "I read your file," she admitted. "It said you were unstable, that you made unfounded accusations against senior staff." "Unfounded?" Ethan laughed bitterly. 3 weeks after I was fired, the data breach stopped. But by then, millions had been stolen from client accounts. Your father settled quietly, paid everyone off, and buried the story. He protected the company. He protected the guilty. Clara had spent 3 years as CEO believing she was honoring her father's legacy. Now she wondered if that legacy was worth honoring at all. "Why did you stay?" she asked. "Why take a janitor position at the company that destroyed your career?" Ethan was quiet for a long time. "Because my wife worked here too. She was in accounting. And when I was fired, she kept digging into what I'd found. 2 months later, there was an explosion in the server room. They said it was an electrical fire." Clara's blood ran cold. She remembered that incident. She'd been away at business school when it happened. 3 casualties. The company paid compensation to the families and moved on. "Emma was one of them," Ethan continued, his voice steady but strained. "My wife, Lily's mother. She died because she wouldn't let it go." "Oh, God." Clara covered her mouth. "I'm so sorry, I didn't know." "Nobody knows. It was ruled an accident. But I saw the maintenance logs afterward. Someone had tampered with the electrical system. It wasn't an accident, it was murder." The weight of it crushed her. Her father's company, her inheritance, built on lies and blood. "Why are you telling me this?" she whispered. "Because 5 minutes ago, you almost walked into a trap. And I think whoever said it is the same person who killed Emma, who framed me, who's been controlling this company from the shadows for years." Clara looked at the security footage again, studying the men's movements. Professional, coordinated, insider knowledge. "You said someone at management level," she said slowly. "Who?" "I don't have proof, just suspicions." "Tell me anyway." Ethan pulled up another file on the computer, old personnel records. "Thomas Reinhardt, your father's closest advisor, now vice chairman of the board." Clara knew Thomas. He'd been like an uncle to her after her father died, guiding her through board meetings, helping her navigate corporate politics. Always so helpful, always so supportive, always there. "No," she said. "Thomas has been with this company for 20 years. He was my father's best friend, which makes him the perfect person to hide behind. Who would suspect him?" Clara wanted to argue, but doubt was creeping in. Thomas had been the one to suggest she return to the office tonight. Said she'd forgotten an important file for tomorrow's board meeting. A file she now couldn't remember being important at all. "He sent me here," she realized aloud. "He called me 2 hours ago, said I needed to retrieve the Bergman contract files urgently." Ethan nodded grimly. "And I'm betting if we check your office now, we'll find something that incriminates you. Planted evidence, ready for the morning headlines. CEO caught in financial scandal. Clara said bitterly. Then the board votes me out, and Thomas takes over. And whoever's paying him gets control of Moretti Holdings. They sat in silence, the gravity of it settling over them. Clara had walked into this building thinking she was in control. Now she realized she'd been playing a rigged game all along. I need to see what they planted, she said, standing up. Too dangerous. It's my company. My name they're destroying. She met his eyes. Are you going to help me, or do I go alone? Ethan studied her. This wasn't the cold CEO he'd watched from a distance for 2 years. This was someone who just had her world shattered and was choosing to fight anyway. Lily's with a neighbor tonight, he said. I have until morning. Then let's go. The last real human mark of Act 2. In his wallet, she glimpsed a photo of his wife next to the company logo. A woman with kind eyes and Lily's smile, killed for asking questions. Just like they'd tried to kill Clara tonight. The next morning, Clara returned to work as if nothing had happened, but her heart was full of suspicion. Ethan was asked to take leave for investigation, a polite way to fire him. Media began reporting on the fake break-in, blaming security. Clara attended a board meeting, headed by Thomas Reinhardt, the man her father had trusted most. He smiled. Ms. CEO, we should avoid a crisis. Please sign here confirming this was a security system failure. Clara looked at the document, Ethan's name on the list of responsible employees. She said, no, I'll investigate this myself. Reinhardt's voice turned cold. You're going to trust the word of a janitor? The room went silent. Other board members shifted uncomfortably. This was the moment, Clara realized. Choose the easy path, protect the company's reputation, sacrifice Ethan, or choose the truth and risk everything. I trust evidence, she said carefully. And until I've reviewed all the security footage myself, I'm not signing anything. Thomas's smile didn't reach his eyes. Clara, dear, your father would want you to protect the company's interests. My father also taught me to be thorough. The meeting ended tensely. Clara could feel the board's disapproval, their doubt in her leadership. She was young, untested, and now appearing unstable. Perfect conditions for a takeover. After the meeting, Clara found Ethan at the old apartment building where he lived on the outskirts of the city. She knocked on his door. A little girl answered, dark curls and curious eyes. Are you here to see my dad? Lily asked. Yes, if he's home. Dad, there's a fancy lady here. Ethan appeared, surprise crossing his face. Ms. Moretti, can we talk? He hesitated, then invited her in. The apartment was small but immaculately clean. Children's drawings covered the refrigerator. A school project about planets sat on the kitchen table. This was his world. Simple, honest, real. You kept a backup of last night's footage, didn't you? Clara asked. He nodded. On a hard drive in the technical room, basement level B2. We need to get it before they discover it exists. They've already changed all the access codes. Clara smiled slightly. I'm still CEO. I have override clearance. They returned to the building that night. The security system had indeed changed access protocols, but Clara's biometric scan still worked for executive access. They made their way to B2, the basement levels cold and poorly lit. Ethan navigated easily, knowing every corner from 2 years of night shifts. In the technical room, he retrieved the hard drive and plugged it into an isolated computer. The footage was damning. Clear images of Reinhardt and 2 IT employees installing listening devices, planting documents, setting up Clara's downfall. In the final segment, Reinhardt spoke directly to one of the men. After she's removed, we'll announce the acquisition. Perfect plan. Our investors will be very pleased. Clara felt dizzy. He wasn't just removing her, he was selling the company. Now, do you understand why I stayed? Ethan said. Justice was never going to clean itself. Clara whispered, my father trusted him. I can't let this happen again. But there was more. As she dug deeper into the archived files, she found encrypted folders marked with her father's personal code. Her hands shook as she decrypted them. Inside were internal memos, insurance reports, and payoff receipts related to the server room explosion 5 years ago. Her father had known it wasn't an accident. He'd known Emma Ward was murdered, and he'd helped cover it up to protect the company's stock price. Clara collapsed into the chair, tears streaming down her face. Ethan stood silent, his hand resting gently on her shoulder. "Do you hate me?" she asked through her tears. "No, because you are doing what your father never did, facing the truth." She looked up at him, this man who had every reason to want revenge, offering her compassion instead. "I'll make this right," she promised. "All of it. For Emma, for you, for everyone they've hurt. It might destroy you. Then I'll be destroyed, but I won't be a coward." Ethan helped her copy all the files to multiple secure locations. They worked through the night, building an airtight case. As dawn broke, Clara sat back, exhausted but determined. "Why are you helping me?" she asked. "After everything my family did to you?" "Because Lily asked me once why I still go to that building every night. And I told her that sometimes the only way to honor someone's memory is to make sure their death meant something." Emma. She died trying to expose corruption. I'm not going to let that be for nothing. Clara reached across the desk and took his hand. Calloused, strong, honest. "I need you with me tomorrow," she said, "when I go public with all of this. You'll lose everything, the company, your reputation, maybe even your freedom if Reinhardt has lawyers waiting. I know, but for the first time in 3 years, I'll be able to look at myself in the mirror." Freeze moment. They sat together in the glow of the computer screens, snow falling outside the glass windows. And for the first time, Clara held his hand not out of fear, but out of trust. Outside, the city was waking up. In a few hours, everything would change. Clara looked at the evidence one more time. Years of corruption, theft, and murder, all documented, all undeniable. "My father built this company," she said quietly, "and I'm going to tear it down, then build it right. That takes courage." "No, courage is what you did. Staying here, working in the building where your wife died, waiting for a chance to make things right. I'm just finally doing what I should have done years ago." Ethan smiled slightly. "We all get there in our own time." "Will you be there?" she asked. "Tomorrow when I make the announcement?" "Where else would I be?" She squeezed his hand, then stood. She had calls to make, lawyers to contact, and a press conference to arrange. But first, she had to figure out how to live with the weight of her father's sins and how to build something better from the ashes. Clara called a public press conference revealing everything from the corruption to the server room explosion 5 years earlier. She accepted full ethical responsibility as heir to the company. Reinhardt was arrested for financial fraud and conspiracy. The media praised CEO who dares to tell the truth, a wake-up call for the financial industry. Ethan was restored to honor, appointed as internal security advisor. He declined the executive position, accepting only a technical oversight role. "I'm used to cleaning from the inside out." Clara laughed. "Will you ever learn to rest?" "When you learn to trust other people." The board attempted to force Clara out anyway. Too much scandal, too much liability. The shareholders were nervous. She stood before them one last time as CEO. "My father built this company on ambition and innovation," she said. "But somewhere along the way, we forgot that our greatest asset isn't our stock price. It's our integrity." "Integrity doesn't pay dividends," one board member snapped. "No, but it lets you sleep at night. And right now, how many of you can honestly say you sleep well?" The room was silent. Clara placed her resignation letter on the table. "I'm stepping down as CEO, but I'm not leaving the company. I'm restructuring my shares into a foundation dedicated to corporate accountability and support for families affected by corporate negligence." "You can't do that," Thomas's attorney protested from the back of the room, already working damage control for his client. "Actually, I can. My father left me controlling interest, and I'm using it to make sure what happened to Emma Ward, to Ethan, to dozens of others, never happens again." She looked at Ethan, standing quietly by the door in a borrowed suit, Lily holding his hand. "I'm also funding full investigations into every suspicious incident in this company's history. Every settlement, every NDA, every convenient accident. And I'm hiring independent auditors to review every financial decision made in the last decade." "This is corporate suicide," someone hisses. "Maybe, but it's also the only way to build something worth saving." The symbol of rebirth. They reopened the old server room, the one that had been sealed since Emma's death. For the first time in 5 years, the system lights came on, green and steady. Clara wiped away tears, whispering, I always thought strength meant needing no one. But it turns out strength is daring to depend on someone. Ethan replied softly, sometimes salvation starts with just a whisper. Don't go inside. They stood in that room together where Emma had died searching for truth, where secrets had been buried, where light was finally returning. She would have liked you, Ethan said. Emma, she always said the system needed people brave enough to break it and rebuild it better. I'm not brave, I'm terrified. Good. That means you understand what's at stake. Lily tugged on Clara's sleeve. Are you my dad's boss? Clara knelt down. No, sweetheart. I think your dad is my teacher. The little girl smiled. He's the best teacher. He taught me that doing the right thing is more important than doing the easy thing. Clara looked up at Ethan, throat tight with emotion. Smart kid. She has her mother's wisdom. Over the next months, the company went through painful restructuring. Stock prices dropped. Several major clients left. 3 more board members resigned. But slowly something unexpected happened. New clients came, ones who valued the transparency. Employees felt safer reporting concerns. The culture shifted, and Clara, working from a modest office without the CEO title, felt more purposeful than she ever had in the executive suite. Ethan worked beside her, designing new security protocols, training staff on ethical reporting, building systems that protected whistleblowers instead of punishing them. We're actually doing it, Clara said one evening, looking at their progress reports. Building something clean. From the ground up, Ethan agreed, the way it should have been from the start. She leaned back in her chair, exhausted but satisfied. Thank you for that night, for covering my mouth, for making me stop long enough to see the truth. Thank you for listening. Most people don't. I'm glad I did. Outside, snow began to fall, covering the city in white. Inside, 2 people who'd been on opposite sides of the same tragedy were finally writing a different ending. Not a perfect one, but an honest one. And that was enough. 1 year later, Moretti Holdings transformed into the Clean Futures Foundation, supporting orphans and unemployed workers. Clara and Ethan co-directed the project, spending each day with Lily at a small office by Lake Zurich. No more business suits or janitor uniforms, just smiles. That Christmas, snow fell white on the streets. Lily gave Clara a small bracelet engraved with, "Thank you for saving my dad." Clara choked up, hugging the girl, then turned to Ethan. "Thank you for covering my mouth that night." He smiled. "If I hadn't, you'd probably still be living in silence." They stood by the window, watching snow collect on the foundation's sign, "Clean Futures," for those who chose to tell the truth. Inside, former Moretti Holdings employees worked alongside people who'd been harmed by corporate negligence, building together, healing together. "Do you ever miss it?" Ethan asked. "The power, the prestige?" Clara thought about it honestly. "Sometimes I miss feeling in control. But then I remember that control was an illusion. I was just as trapped as everyone else. And now? Now I'm free, broke, disgraced by half the business world, and free." She laughed, and it was genuine. When was the last time she'd laughed like that in the old office? Lily ran up with a drawing. "Look, I made a picture of our family." Clara looked at the crayon figures, Ethan, Lily, and a woman with long, dark hair labeled Clara. "Family?" Clara's voice wavered. "Well, yeah, you're here every day. You eat dinner with us. You help me with homework. That makes you family." Out of the mouths of children, Clara thought, the simple truth they saw so clearly. "I'd be honored to be part of your family," Clara said, hugging Lily close. Ethan watched them, something shifting in his expression. He'd spent 5 years in survival mode, raising Lily alone, seeking justice, keeping his grief locked tight. But now, watching his daughter embrace this woman who'd transformed from enemy to ally to something more, he felt that grief finally loosening its grip. "You know," he said softly after Lily ran off to play, "Emma used to say that the right people come into your life exactly when you need them. Do you believe that?" "I didn't. For a long time, I thought I'd used up my chance at having the right people in my life." He moved closer to Clara, but lately I'm starting to think she was right. Clara's breath caught. Ethan, I'm not asking for anything. I just wanted you to know that having you in our lives, in Lily's life, has meant everything. She reached up, touching his face gently. Having you both in mind has saved me. In every way, a person can be saved. Outside, the snow fell heavier. Inside, surrounded by the work they'd built together, two people who'd met in crisis found peace. Not in forgetting the past, but in transforming it into something meaningful. The lights inside the office reflected on the lake. The small wooden sign swayed gently. Clean futures, for those who chose to tell the truth. Final image. Clara rested her head on Ethan's shoulder. Outside, snow fell softly. The light cast warm glows on two people who'd once been opposites, now writing a new definition of trust together. And Lily, drawing at her desk, added one more figure to her family portrait. A small angel with her mother's smile, watching over them all. Sometimes the person who stops you from going in isn't blocking your path. They're the only one trying to keep you alive. If you believe stories like this deserve to be told, leave a comment and subscribe to Hidden Heart Stories. We tell the stories that shouldn't be forgotten.